What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 73 of the Hoop Venue Podcast. My name is Tyler, and as always, I'm joined by my great friend, Sean. Your eyes do not deceive you, or if you're just listening, your ears don't deceive you. This is our third episode of the week, man. Someone in the comments brought up how we're trying to get to that 65 video threshold, be eligible for the podcast awards. Of course, we already won most consistent podcast of all time last season, so I don't know what other awards we're in the running for. Like, are we just going for best podcast on the internet now, going like band for band with Joe Rogan in terms of like active listeners on Spotify and whatnot? That's pretty much the level we're starting to approach here. No, in all seriousness, it's nice to get a few episodes in a row under our belts. Today we're going to be selecting our all-star teams. And Sean, by any chance, did you have the pleasure of seeing inside the NBA's NBA benches? Did you catch that?
Oh no, I did not. I'm one scared, but also like low key want to know what were their benches. Do you know them?
So here's the thing, right? Basketball, evaluating a basketball player is very opinionated. There's a lot of variables that go into it. There's no objective right answer when it comes to these things. I will say, we just did an entire episode 2 episodes ago, which is kind of a prequel for this episode. So if you didn't listen to that, I suggest you go back and listen to that. We basically tried to solve basketball by going into the ins and outs, the nuances of basketball, and everything that drives value, drives championships on the court. But I do think there's a general like framework, or maybe that's not the word I'm looking for, a general hierarchy, right? It's like you can separate like a certain caliber of player from another and really like come to a general conclusion on like, all right, these are the guys who should be in the running for an all-star team and these are the guys who shouldn't. And they somehow like started naming players that I didn't even like, weren't even on my radar. So for this episode, I personally considered about like 20 to 21 players in each conference, and they named a few guys who probably wouldn't have even made my top 25 in each conference. So I'm going to go ahead and rattle off. Let's start with the East. In the East, all 4 of them had the 3 of Jalen Duren, Brandon Ingram, and Donovan Mitchell. Right away, major red flag in my opinion. How is Brandon Ingram the Raptor? Am I missing? So I went and looked at the numbers, and I was like, okay, maybe Brandon Ingram is like driving the offense more than I thought initially. He's averaging 2 more points than Scotty Barnes, 2 less assists, about the same amount of turnovers, similar touches and supremacy within the offense. Ingram's 1% less efficient, true shooting. Scotty Barnes has a higher plus minus. I think he has a higher offensive rating on the court as well. And he's probably going to be on the all-defensive first team. Like, what am I missing?
So
is it
by
just
your
the fact
reaction,
that...
I would assume that they did not have Scotty Barnes.
Well, hang on. What I'm getting at is like, it's like they saw the Raptors, and this is something I kind of want to talk about too in terms of how I went about my criteria, but like I feel like they saw the Raptors record and were like, they got to have an all-star, and then just picked the leading scorer from the team. Scotty Barnes is far and away the best player on the Raptors. Like, it's not even a discussion. He's close enough offensively while being one of the best defenders in the league. Scotty Barnes is criminally underrated still, and he's just clearly a winning player. Okay. Shaq finished out his team with Scotty Barnes, shout out, Jalen Johnson, Norman Powell, and Josh Giddey. Ernie finished out his team with Scotty Barnes, Jalen Johnson, so similar to Shaq, Norman Powell, and Karl Anthony Towns. Kenny was the only one
leaning Ernie with the best one so far.
Kenny was the only one who didn't have Scotty Barnes or Jalen Johnson.
He didn't have either one of them?
He didn't have either one. He had Karl Anthony Towns. He had Joel Embiid. He had Bam Adebayo. And he had, can you guess? Can you guess who it is?
Josh Giddey.
Paolo Banchero.
All right.
Shout out to Paolo. I don't think there's anything in his profile this season that suggests he should be anywhere close to this team. For the first half of the season, the talking point was whether or not Paolo Banchero's a negative. And obviously he's turned that ship around. Like, he's been more involved in Orlando's offense in a variety of ways, and he's been more efficient, and he's been figuring it out. But like, there's still so many holes in his game. I just don't see how in like a stacked year like this that makes any sense. Um, and then Chuck had Scotty Barnes, Jalen Johnson, Bam Adebayo, and Josh Giddey. So three of them had Barnes. That's cool. Three of them had Jalen Johnson. One of them had Banchero. Two of them had Bam. Two had Cat. Two had Giddey. Two had Norman Powell. So you get like a kind of like a nice diverse collection of names. The West gets a little bit more interesting.
Wait, really quickly, can I stop you right quick?
Go ahead.
One from the East, I probably like Ernie's the most, personally.
Scotty, Jalen, Norman Powell, and Cat.
Along with what? Donovan Mitchell, Duran, and Brandon Ingram too.
Yeah, I would say I think that's the one I agree with the most. Maybe that's a bit of a spoiler for the choices we're gonna have.
I don't see you picking Josh Giddey, but like not considering MPJ. I get it, the Nets suck, but like
I mean, Josh Giddey's fine. The weird thing with Josh Giddey is the injury. Like, he started off the season on fire, and then, like, I don't exactly know what his status is regarding
He's playing. I just don't think he's fully healthy.
Yeah, he missed a few games, came back for 4 games, missed the last game against the Heat. But yeah, he played against the Celtics, and he had 4 points in 24 minutes. So it, like, probably isn't himself. So yeah, his season averages did come down, but like I see the vision with Giddey, the way he pushes pace, the ball movement, and all that stuff. The triple doubles, people love the triple doubles, man. We did a whole episode basically crapping on the box score, but people love those triple doubles. Okay, Western Conference. There were four players who they all had. Those players are Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, Anthony Edwards, and Jamal Murray. Those were the four that they.
Devin Booker, Anthony Edwards, Kevin Durant, Jamal Murray.
Yep, those were the 4 that they all had.
Okay.
Shaq had Denny Avdia, Alperen Şengün, and Chet Holmgren. I don't think that's crazy. Ernie had Denny Avdia, Chet Holmgren, and LeBron. So LeBron instead of Şengün, compared to Shaq. I'm going to skip Kenny. We'll get back to him. Chuck had Denny Avdia, Alperen Şengün. So he had Alperen Şengün and Denny Avdia, and then he had Dylan Brooks, which, like, that's a little bit crazy to me, but also I'm such a big Dylan Brooks advocate that I'm like, okay, I respect the angle of, like, supporting the high-level superstar role player archetype that we talked about.
I'm more surprised that, like, he actually pulled Dylan Brooks off.
I wonder if it's because of Chuck's, like, I mean, I don't even know if he has connections to Phoenix, but I don't even know if he does. Because remember the clip of him talking about Phoenix and how, like, the fries are cold? The pretzels are cold in Phoenix. Like, there's nothing good going on at the basketball games. So I don't know if he's really that fond of Phoenix. Okay, let's get to Kenny. Kenny's also the one who had Paolo Banchero, by the way. He had Alperen Şengün, LeBron, and I'm gonna give you the floor. Who do you think his final Western Conference All-Star was?
Austin Reeves.
No. Let's narrow this down. Playoff team. Guard.
Playoff team guard. Current playoff team, I'm assuming.
Current playoff team guard. Not play in, like playoff lock. Current playoff lock guard.
De'Aaron Fox.
Oh, you're getting hot.
Dylan Harper? Stephon Castle?
Stephon Castle, who has like dropped off to like a 53% true shooting on the season since his hot start. Shooting, I think, 27% from 3 and like 68% from the line. I don't know. I'm a Stephon Castle believer. I think the generational functional athleticism is a huge deal, especially against a team like OKC. Like, he has OKC's number. He averages an efficient 20 against them consistently. His ability to get 2 feet in the paint pretty much whenever he wants is a huge part of San Antonio's offense, and he's obviously their primary point of attack defender. But with how stacked the Western Conference is, I have a really hard time justifying that. And, like, why would it be Castle over Fox? I don't get that.
Stephon Castle mentioned. I mean, again, all for Stephon Castle. I'm a big fan of San Antonio's guard trio. I think we've made that pretty well known and well documented on the pod, especially recently. But yeah, like, I would have thought De'Aaron Fox would have been the guy. And granted, for sure. I did not have any of those guys mentioned or even on my list.
Let me just ask you then, what was your criteria for selecting your teams? Like, what were the things you factored in to your selections. By the way, sorry to cut you off. I asked you a question that immediately just like didn't let you answer. I want to preface this by saying these aren't our predictions for what the teams are actually going to be. This is like if Adam Silver came to me and was like, Tyler, we need you to select the All-Star teams. That's how I went about it. And it's like, oh, so I have free reign to do whatever I want with this. Did you approach it in that same way?
Well, I mean, prepare to see Rudy Gobert as a starter for you.
Okay.
The all-Tyler team would be Rudy Gobert, Derek White. Hold on. All right, we're gonna build a real team. We're gonna go Rudy Gobert at the 5, Jokic at the 4. We're just gonna like lean all the way in the Jokic spacing. Derek White at the 2 because you have Jokic and Rudy behind you.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think who would be your guard, who would be your 1. I'm trying to think of the Tyler PG 1. I'm gonna go like I think for you. I think you would just go. Would you go Brunson because you love how much he does to turn the ball over?
I was gonna say I'd probably go Shea. Like to be honest,
Shea.
it'd probably just be Shea. I'm trying to think. Jamal Murray. I am a big Jamal Murray guy.
3.
Who's at the 3?
The all-Tyler team will be Shea, Derek White, Dylan Brooks, Jokic, Rudy Gobert. There we go.
That's a squad. Wait, no, Steph. Steph at the 1. Come on now. You know I'm a big Steph guy. I don't know how I forgot about Steph. What a squad,
right.
Dude. We're just having Rudy Gobert fight for position on offense, and we're running Steph and Jokic DHOs, dude. Come on now.
Where's Draymond fitting in the mix at? You going Draymond at the 2 and just say F spacing?
How did we not include Get Jokic out of there, man. Come on.
That's nasty.
How do we not get Draymond and Gobert locker room fights at halftime, dude? Are you kidding me?
It's just going to be pure entertainment for you at that point.
Dylan Brooks, Draymond, and Rudy Gobert, the 3-way beef, dude. This is beautiful hoops.
Steph and Shea is enough offense. You'll get some.
Shea's out of there too. It's Derek White.
Derek White. To answer your original question, yes, I kind of view it the same way. It's kind of like more so. I think it's just been the most valuable and impactful players for their teams throughout the season.
Yeah, that's exactly how I went about it. It was impact from the season, and again, if you don't understand everything that we kind of loop into impact, I would suggest going back to the episode 71 where we talk about player value. But essentially, it's not the best box score. We don't have to check a box of like these are the top scorers in the game, these are the top PRA guys in the game. Also, another thing that I really want to like bring up is the team wins thing. Like, there's always this idea that if a team is good enough, like at a certain threshold, if they're like a top 3 seed, it's like they gotta have an all-star. I've never thought that's the case. Like, sometimes there's just really good teams. And then also, it's possible for a lesser team to have 2 all-stars. Like, there's always this idea, again, that, like, if you're not a 30-15 team, how can you possibly have 2 all-stars? Like, if you have 2 all-stars, your team would be better. And it's like, again, these rosters are playing 10 players, 9 players in their rotation. 2 players can only have such an impact. My best example of that would be AD and LeBron in, like, 2023. Both were very obvious all-stars. Both probably should have been top, like, all-NBA second team at the very least. And that team was the 7th seed, right? The 2023 Lakers. And then they go on to the conference finals.
Because of a post-deadline hot streak.
Yeah, like up until the trade deadline, they were, like, below 500.
Yeah.
And it's like they clearly had 2 high-level all-stars. So I just don't think that matters. Also, I didn't account for, like, I know it's the all-star game and you always get the gimmick of, like, who wants to watch defense in the All-Star game? Who wants to watch Rudy Gobert in the All-Star game? Like, we want to see LaMelo Ball in the All-Star game. Like, yeah, I want to see LaMelo Ball in the All-Star game too. But again, going through the spirit of, like, the most impactful players, I didn't account for the most popular players or the most fun to watch. Just simply, who's been the most valuable player on the court this season? What one kind of issue I ran into, and I don't know if you ran into this as well, did you run into the dilemma of, like, comparing a player like throughout the entirety of their season and then the level they're at right now?
Maybe honestly I just didn't really think about it like that.
Because I was like, I want to account for the entire season, but there's also a couple players who started off slow, but the current level they're at right now would be like, oh my gosh, how could you not have them on the All-Star team? And maybe that's like recency bias looping into it.
I think LaMelo would have to be like a guy that would benefit from more recent play, like impact in recent play.
For sure.
Like the past 30 games or whatever has made me like more of a believer in LaMelo Ball's game than when he was averaging 28 and 9 or whatever.
Facts. Yeah, and that's another point to like the box score doesn't always tell you who the most valuable players are. LaMelo's like regressed his role, but it's become more valuable. And the Hornets are they just won their fifth straight. I think that crazy thriller against Dallas. They've won like 8 of their last 11. I believe they're hooping. Did you account for games played at all into your?
Um, yeah, but it's tough.
That's kind of where I went with it too. I was like, obviously, you had to play a decent number of games to where we get a sample of what you are as a player this year. Like, you can't just play 5 games and it's like, okay, yeah, I know you're good enough to make the All-Star team. Let's throw you in there. The way I kind of split it up was like, you have to be healthy when the game's gonna actually be played. So, like, if I'm not sure you're gonna be healthy by the time the game's played, or like your timetable suggests you're not gonna be ready by the time the game's played, I kind of just tossed you out. And it's like I'm almost just like prematurely doing an injury replacement. Um, and then if I also used it as like a tiebreaker. Like if I was really split between 2 or 3 players, it was like, okay, if one guy played 25 games and one guy played 45 games, I'm gonna give the nod to the guy that played 20 extra games. The last thing I want to bring up before we actually start naming our teams is the biggest issue I have with the All-Star format and the issue I ran into when selecting my teams. The Western Conference is way stronger than the Eastern Conference. Like it's actually really alarming. Like I got to like number 17 of my Western Conference All-Star like considerations, and they'd all be in my top 10 in the East. It's absurd how stacked the West is, and I don't know why it's still East and West. It's not an East and West game. It's USA versus World. The game is completely positionless now. Like it used to be, you have to have a certain amount of front court and back court players, or like your starting lineup had to be a certain number of players. The starting five in the East is 4 guards and then Giannis. So it's positionless. It's not East and West. I don't know why we're limited to conferences. It should just be the 24 best players.
Yeah, like you're very clearly like one step away from that anyway.
Let's start with the West. Let's get the better conference out of the way early. So just to refresh everyone's memory, we're only going to be selecting the benches because the starters have been named for like a week now. The starters are Jokic, Shea, Luka, Curry, and Wemby. Who was your first guy to? In my opinion, there were 3 shoo-ins for the Western Conference bench.
The first guy that I immediately penciled in was Kawhi Leonard. I mean,
Yeah,
Kawhi,
I did too, and I also before you get into Kawhi, did you notice that none of the Inside the NBA guys had Kawhi as an All-Star?
I thought I like just misheard you, or like maybe you said
None
in
of
like
them had Kawhi Leonard.
I thought you
I
might have said Kawhi in the first like we were like rattling off the guys that they all had. Yeah, no, Kawhi Leonard was one of the shoo-ins. Like, all right, yeah, I can just mark you in and not have to think twice about it.
Yeah.
The level that he's playing at a close to, if not just complete peak level. He's been, if you look at any impact metric, he has been a top 5 player this season. And I mean, we were talking about this off air, and we're going to do this for the East soon, if not the next episode. And we were more so talking about this from the standpoint of like the Cavs are, really, really playing well and like sneakily a game or a half a game back depending on results tonight from the 2 seed in the East. The Clippers are definitely now the 10 seed. They're now in the play-in. They've won 9 of their last 10. They're on a 3-game winning streak, and they're like 3 games back of the 8 seed in the West. Mind you, Kawhi Leonard is again playing at a ridiculous MVP caliber level, and for a team that started 3 and 16, 3 and 15, something crazy.
I know they were 6 and 21.
6 and 21. Okay, cool. In the month of January specifically, Kawhi's averaging 28 points, shooting 50% from the floor, basically, and 41.5% from 3. Being a high volume 3-point shooter too, he's a plus 5.5% relative true shooting percentage. I mean, I don't know what more else to say. He's just been, and he's still like a really capable is maybe just underselling it. He's still a very good defender still.
Yeah.
And I'm honestly happy for Kawhi, a guy that's like been as banged up as he has. and to like this late into his prime to still be able to like just drop peak performances really consistently right now. I hope he's able to sustain this for a full season health wise and get to the playoffs because, and this isn't the time for hot takes, but, or yes, it is. I'm lying. I mean, Kawhi Leonard playing at this level, getting to the playoffs when the Clippers have rounded it to form. Harden's is still playing at a really high level. They've gotten some regression to the mean from their other players. We knew this was a talented roster heading into the season. I mean, if I'm OKC or San Antonio, who's right now the 1-2, yeah, I'm completely okay with playing. I'm good. And I'm not saying okay literally. No, I'm good. I do not want to see this version of the Clippers with this version of Kawhi round one, and it's because Kawhi Leonard is playing at an MVP level.
Yeah, I've been a Kawhi advocate for a long time during these injury-riddled years, sometimes to my own detriment. Like, every time I would do my top 25 players video series, and I would have Kawhi like
6.
I would have him like 4th or 5th or 6th, and everyone would be like, dude, he played 40 games and got injured in the playoffs. And I'm like, when healthy, he's still that guy. I've been such a big advocate for Kawhi, and I even said in 2023, I believe, that I still thought Kawhi was the best scorer in the league when everyone was fully healthy. And everyone was like looking at me like I was crazy. This version of Kawhi again looks like he might be the best scorer in the league. I'm not gonna say he is. I do think it's Shea and then probably Jokic, but Kawhi's definitely in that discussion. They've won since they started 6-21. They've won 16 of their last 19 games. They're 16-3 over their last 19. Kawhi during that stretch, 31 points per game, 43% from 3 on 8.5 attempts a game, 7.5 free throw attempts a game at 92%, shooting 66% true shooting, averaging 2 turnovers and 2.5 steals. What is that? What is that player? That's not even that's not a realistic player. Kawhi's playing at such an absurd level, and it's so cool to see his role shift. Like, during those last few years, because they were injury managing him and stuff, they would put him on the court next to a lead ball handler and kind of just manage his touches only inside the arc. Like, you'd get some post-ups, you'd get some off-screen curling stuff around the elbow, you get the occasional isolation. Now it's back to, okay, Kawhi, we're going to run you as our, essentially point forward. We're going to run a lot of spread pick and roll setups for you. We want you hunting for the pull-up three, which he's just added to his game. He's making 39% of his pull-up threes on the year on 5 attempts a game, which is just top 5 type of off-the-dribble shooting in the NBA. Out of nowhere, that's never been in his game. He's usually a 2-attempt guy. Now he's up to just 5 attempts. And it's funny because the way that happened is Kawhi actually said in a post-game interview that he went into Ty Lue's office and said, hey, I'm going to start shooting 12 threes a game. And Ty Lue asked him how. And he said, just watch how I do it. And then you go watch the Clippers, and the guy's just pulling anything. They'll be in transition, and he's just like, oh, I'm going to do a pull-up three now, while contested. And they're going in. It's absurd. And I think Kawhi, the coolest thing about Kawhi has always been the fact that he's such a casually underrated, all-time great shooter that it's never been brought up. 3 seasons in a row before this, he shot over 41% from 3 and 50% from mid-range. This season, he's shooting 94% from the free throw line while shooting 40% from 3 and 50-something% from mid-range. Just an absurd shot maker. Doesn't turn the ball over. Can play with or without the ball. Like you said, defending at a high level. By the way, over that stretch, that 16 of their last 19 games winning stretch, the Clippers have a 127 offensive rating with Kawhi on the court, a plus 17 net rating with him on the court. So, just hammer that point home. Kawhi not only is playing like an all-star, he's playing like an MVP. Not only is he playing like an MVP, he's been, over the last month and a half, at worst, the 3rd best player in basketball. So if he doesn't make the all-star team, that would be the biggest travesty I've ever seen in all-star selection territory.
All right, so we both had Kawhi Leonard. Who would be your next player? Who's your next lock?
My next shooting is Anthony Edwards.
Okay.
Pretty easy. Could have been a starter. Similar thing to Kawhi, just an unreal shot maker, having a ridiculous season. Took the mid-range leap that we've been talking about for a few years now, getting up to 45% on volume, picking his spots a lot better, operating out of the pick and roll a lot better. The pull-up three is just a legit thing now. There's nothing you can point to and say it's a fluke. The athleticism, he's having a career year finishing at the rim. Actually, if I'm not mistaken, the last time I checked, he was shooting the same field goal percentage at the rim as Shea. just to add some context on like what type of finisher we're talking about with Ant this season. Obviously leaves a bit to be desired as a playmaker. He's not the highest level processor. Also, I will say, very kind of bad defensive season for Ant. But again, it's not like he's just this active detriment to Minnesota's team defense. And with the way he's been playing on offense, again, closer to like all NBA first team than not being an all-star.
Yeah, and to your point, I was just pulling up some of the synergy data on Anthony Edwards. And this is, again, why I think Ant it's so predictable. It's honestly, this is like such a big credit to him. You go back to last season. Last season, Anthony Edwards, on a per-game basis, took about 2.8. This is regular season and playoffs. Let's just go regular season for right now. Regular season, he took about a little under 3 pull-up twos per game at a 34% clip. In the playoffs, he took about 2 attempts per game, but not only, but at around a 45% clip, which is great. But he wasn't taking them enough. He still wasn't entirely confident in using it as a super reliable counter, where so far this season for Anthony Edwards, from a playoff volume standpoint at least, he's doubled his volume from the playoffs. He's now shooting about 4 pull-up mid-range attempts per game at a 43 to 45% clip, while also being still one of the best pull-up three-point shooters in the entire league, shooting 37% on pull-up threes on insane volume on a per-game basis and an insane degree of difficulty on those pull-up threes, on top of just the how much he means to the Minnesota Timberwolves offense in terms of being a major advantage creator for their half-court offense. Obviously, the slashing and stuff like that, man. Like, I'm really Ant's awesome to kind of just look at, man, and look at his development because, I mean, it's kind of like the top 1% outcome, especially if you're looking at Ant coming into the league. He was this ultra talented, ultra like God-gifted athletic traits, but such a raw half-court scorer that you really needed to see develop. And every year in his NBA career, he has consistently leveled up in one major area. This year, the Timberwolves have a 119 offensive rating with him on the floor, a net rating of +4 with him on the floor in general. Yeah, I don't really know, and maybe it's because Ant made the ridiculous three-point shooting leap last season to the point where he kind of got his flowers last year, but I'm not really sure if Ant has like gotten enough credit for making that next leap as a mid-range shot maker, because with his degree of difficulty of shots, his slashing ability, he's still a flawed playmaker or decision maker. But he still has a relative true shooting percentage of plus almost 5%, which again, kind of insane. So Anthony Edwards definitely a shoo-in and a guy that's been playing at an all-NBA first team level this season.
Yeah, Ant is such a unique case study because, like you said, top 1% outcome, but also just the fact that every single year he adds a new layer to his game and just gets that much better. It's such a, like, they always say development isn't linear, but it's literally been linear for Ant. Every year he just gets like a little bit better. And it's crazy. I saw a stat the other day, and it was Anthony Edwards' points per game and true shooting percentage every year since he entered the league. Not only has his scoring volume gone up every year, his efficiency has gone up every year, and now he's just hitting new heights. And to our points about the playmaking, like, yeah, he's not a high-level processor, not a super high-level passer, but the types of coverages defenses have to go to guard him just to prevent him from getting 2 feet in the paint or walking into a pull-up three, he's just an automatic advantage. Like, pretty much any time he crosses half court and uses a ball screen or really sets up any type of isolation play, the entire defense has to shift towards him. And that's how Minnesota's role players get a lot of those open threes. So Ant, just huge offensive impact. Did you have another lock? Because I had one more.
Who's your one more?
My one more was Kevin Durant. And I think a lot of people just get to a point where we're so used to Kevin Durant that we don't acknowledge the greatness in front of us. Houston's offensive situation isn't terrible, They do overwhelm teams with their size and athleticism. They're huge in the offensive glass, which we've talked about plenty of times. So they do have offensive advantages. But just in terms of the playmaking and the spacing, Kevin Durant is in maybe the least possible like favorable situation to get his game off, right? Like there's no one creating easy opportunities for him outside of the occasional like Şengün kick out after drawing a double or whatever. Anytime he tries to create, it's a packed paint. It's packed with help at the nail and help in the gaps. You've got Amen Thompson getting guarded by Wembanyama in their most recent game against the Spurs. That's their point guard. Kevin Durant, basically, by all means, just like not in a favorable situation to get his game off. And he is averaging 27 points a game on 51% shooting, 41% from three, 64% true shooting, 89% from the line, basically 50, 40, 90, 27 points a game at like what, age 37. I haven't been super impressed with the defense, but it's like it's not like it's just that I don't think he's a needle mover. It's like he's obviously not just actively a detriment to Houston's defense. Houston's defense is fine, and he's obviously a cog in the system with his length, versatility, ability to protect the rim. But they have a 121 offensive rating with him on the court if you exclude garbage time, a +8 net rating with Kevin Durant on the court while he's doing all of these things. His ability to flex between a roll on and off the ball, and then just the shot making. It's just so valuable. And Kevin Durant, once again, a lock for the All-Star game.
Nearly +6 relative true shooting percentage this season. And again, it's ridiculously impressive, like you said, considering the circumstances. It's not like it's not like we can, like, I mean, they love Reed. That's also the other cool thing too, that we're able to like see him kind of take Reed Shepherd a little bit under his wing. But okay, Reed's their only reliable guard shooter. But I mean, yeah. I'm not missing anybody, am I?
No, I mean, unless you consider Aaron Holiday.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, really just the degree of difficulty, his consistency. I almost want to say KD also doesn't get enough credit. I think KD to a certain extent also plays into that though.
Oh yeah.
His interactions on Twitter. I don't want no smoke, Kevin Durant. But I mean, it's impressive, man. I think he is a case study for anybody that just wants to watch basketball at as simplest form. Like, if I wanted to show somebody like a current like 3 players that are as efficient with their scoring moves. Like, okay, there are guys that I think want to dribble and, you know, used all these different counters and things like that. And granted, Kevin Durant is 7 foot tall. So to a certain extent, he has the God-given ability that is a counter that, hey, I'm 7 foot. That's an elite shooter that's just going to rise up above you. But more so just from like an off the dribble standpoint, he is so simple and is honestly great for like up and coming high school or college basketball players to want to watch and be as effective with as minimum amount of moves or dribbles as possible. Like Kawhi's also in a very similar tier of guys that are on the Mount Rushmore of, all right, I'm just going to get to my spot and rise up, and you can't do nothing about it. So good defense. Jaden McDaniels, who's the first defender that came to my mind, but you're going to get this out the net and go the other way. So shout out KD.
Yeah, facts. Okay, so after that, I think now you get into the group of guys where, like, you can probably argue some of the snubs can be above, depending on what you value and what your criteria is.
Sure.
Who was your next guy in the West after KD?
The next guy that I felt like I just had to have was Jamal Murray. And I think what further sold it was how, and granted, you know, we talked about some of the rise and guys like Payne Watson who's been phenomenal this season, and this team is just deeper than some of just definitely deeper than the other iterations of the Nuggets over the past 3 to 4 years. Basically, since Jamal's been back healthy, and definitely since Jokic has entered his prime. But with that being said, still post Jokic injury, Jamal Murray still rising to the occasion, legitimately being an All NBA caliber player this season. Has a relative true shooting percentage of plus 4.1%. I want to say I just had it pulled up. Let me pull it back up one more time. Denver this season with Jamal Murray on the floor have a 126 offensive rating. He has a plus minus of plus 9 or net rating on off of plus 9.6. They're losing the minutes without Jamal Murray on the floor. And it's the offensive versatility, the shooting, the shooting off of off-ball screens, off of pin downs, off of DHO action, obviously with Jokic or Valanciunas. You can use him as a spot-up guy occasionally. He can obviously win one-on-one and attack downhill and finish at the rim. He's a good enough playmaker. I would never describe Jamal Murray as a tier 1 through 3 even playmaker, but if tier 4 is good enough for us, that would be Jamal Murray. Maybe that's the episode we should do. We should do like a playmaker tier list.
That'd be cool.
That'd be cool. He's a perfectly good playmaker. He's not, obviously has some defensive limitations, but he competes his ass off still defensively. And then obviously is an elite high volume 3-point shooter or just high volume jump shot creator and jump shot maker in general. Jamal Murray deserves his flowers. He deserves to be an all-star this season. He was pretty close to being a lock. I felt like I had to have him on my all-star list personally.
I also had Jamal Murray. Just such an unbelievable shot maker. It's like sometimes I don't even know what I'm watching. You turn on a Nuggets game when Jokic isn't on the court, and Jamal Murray, like, if you were trying to be super critical from like a process standpoint, a lot of Jamal Murray's buckets are like, what, like that was bad process. There wasn't really an advantage created. But then it's like, wait, the advantage is that Jamal Murray's just a tier 1 shot maker and can make shots that nobody else on the planet can make. Such an unbelievable pull-up shooter. Crazy touch on like fadeaways and stuff. Has a quick trigger that he can get off out of basically any situation, off the catch or off the dribble. And the big question mark, right, was when Jokic goes down with an injury. Historically, the story has been Jokic goes down with an injury, this team just falls apart, right? Or Jokic goes on the bench for 8 minutes, and this team falls off a cliff and can't even survive at all, and they're like a neutral net rating or whatever. And the big part, like when Jokic was said that when it was said that Jokic would miss like a month, like 5 weeks, the big talking point was how much is Denver gonna slip? Turns out, not really at all. I mean, their net rating has fallen off a cliff, but you are still winning games, and it's because Jamal Murray has picked up this offensive load, and he's averaging, in games without Jokic, 28 points and 8 assists a game on 61% true shooting.
I just have a stat for you. There are, so far this season, per Synergy, there have been 59 players to log at least 4 ball screen, pick and roll ball handlers scoring possessions per game, okay? So basically meaning you are getting a shot attempt, it's shot made shot, missed shot, foul, turnover, at least 4 times a game. There are only 4 players with a higher points per possession than Jamal Murray. Can you guess who they are really quickly?
Peyton Pritchard is always at the top of this. Is Peyton Pritchard one of them?
Peyton Pritchard is not one of them.
Not one of them. Wow. Are there any superstars like Shea? Is Shea on there?
Shea's number 1 in points per possession on the ball screens.
Are there any other superstars? Are they all superstars?
2 of these guys we've already talked about.
Steph Curry.
All 3 of these guys are in the West. Steph Curry is 6, right behind Jamal Murray.
Okay, Kawhi Leonard.
Kawhi Leonard is number
Edwards,
3.
for sure.
Anthony Edwards is number 4.
So I'm missing one guy.
You're missing number 2. You won't think of him right away, but when you hear his name, it'll kind of make sense.
Tyrese Maxey.
West playoff team. Guard.
West playoff team. De'Aaron Fox.
No.
James Harden. No, I would think of James Harden. Why would it not be James Harden? Austin Reeves. It's Austin Reeves.
Austin Reeves.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. I totally forgot. Austin Reeves is that guy.
So Jamal Murray is 5th in points per possession on ball screens. Guess where he is in effective field goal percentage on ball screens?
First.
So basically,
it's just because the other guys all get to the line a lot, and Jamal Murray's like, no, I'm just gonna burn you with shots.
Yeah. So Jamal Murray is one of the best shot makers, arguably one of the 3 best tough shot makers of his generation. And again, doing this with an extended stretch without Jokic, where they historically have been god awful without Jokic, is even more impressive.
What's absurd to me is the consistency of the stupid shot making. Like, it's also Michael Porter Jr.-esque. Michael Porter Jr. has this too, and it's crazy to think that Denver had both of them for so many years. But it's like, usually when you rely on difficult shot making for your scoring, you get this crazy volatility where it's like one night everything's dialed in. The next night you go like 6 for 17. But Jamal Murray this whole season has been just like, no, hold this 49% from the field, 41% from three, positive true shooting percentage, because I'm going to consistently make the stupidest shots you've ever seen. Yeah, Jamal Murray's been unbelievable, definitely an all-star. My next guy that I felt very confident just slotting into a spot was Chet Holmgren.
Okay.
Chet, to me, is just, it's the fact that he is, at worst, a top 4 defensive player of the year candidate. I think most people would have him 1 or 2. I think the sports books have him number 1 because of the Wemby games played type of thing. But yeah, Chet, at worst, like the other guys you could even really consider for defensive player of the year would be probably Wemby, Gobert, and Bam. And then I guess you kind of brought up last episode how people are starting to give that buzz to Scotty Barnes. I personally would have him just a touch below those guys, but shout out Scotty. Chet is just this unbelievable rim presence for OKC's historic defense. You cannot score if he's in the paint. Like, I think players are shooting like 16% worse than their expected percentage at the rim against Chet. In the last 2 seasons, so like 2 seasons worth of data where players just cannot score at the rim when he's there at all, and he's always there. And maybe, granted, some of that is OKC's defensive scheming and putting him in positions to thrive, but that's part of what all-star, like, you get credited for what you're doing in your circumstance, not what it would look like if he had to carry an entire defense on his shoulders. And within OKC's defensive construct, monster rim protector, he's been pretty good on the glass. And that impact alone puts him in the discussion for an all-star spot where it's like, okay, Chet's got to at least be in the conversation. But then the selling point for me is just we're starting to see the actualization of his offense. He's shooting about 38% from 3 on volume. Overall, 18 points a game on 66% true shooting. Yeah, when you take a defensive player of the year candidate, top 3 at worst or whatever, and add 18 points a game on 66% true shooting, tell me that this guy can handle the ball, space the floor, finish plays, be used as like an offensive chess piece. He's been the number 2 on offense all year. I just think Chet, the two-way value is pretty overwhelming, and going from the spirit of impact and value, he's a guy who consistently pops up as just an all-star, all-NBA caliber player.
Yeah, Chet was one of the last 3 that last 2. He took one of my last 2 spots. But again, yeah, ultra high impact guy. And I'm glad you brought up the offensive optimization for Chet, because he's in theory a guy that is so uniquely versatile for his build and being a 7-1 big. He's obviously a spot up threat where this season he's shooting 41% on plain spot up threes. He's obviously a dynamic, vertical threat at the rim, but also a vertical, or I guess it'll be more horizontal, spacer out of pick and pop game where he's shooting 42% on pick and pop threes this season. You can obviously utilize him out of the dunker. You can utilize him more if a team wants to switch. You can get him on post seals and just mismatches in the post. Where Chet Holmgren this season in spot up, pick and roll, isolation, transition, and off-screen action this season. They still love to do the off-screen players. Chet Holmgren ranks at least in the 50th percentile or better. And the one reason the low is his off-screen. 50th percentile or better in terms of points per possession rank, basically his efficiency. So that just, again, goes to show like how much more they're leaning into him offensively, how much versatility he has in offensive utilization, which is a major skill and benefit for the Thunder offense. It just makes them harder to beat once they're able to like figure everything out consistently. Yeah. Because Chet is playing at such a high level right now. So I do have Chet as an all-star just because of the impact. And that's not even touching on the defense. You kind of touched on all the defensive stuff for me. Granted, it also kind of, checks itself. But Chet, the two-way impact, the leap he's kind of taken offensively this season, and having a full off season and kind of getting into a rhythm, throughout the season, being, pretty healthy for the most part, I think has been awesome for Chet. And glad to see him take this leap offensively.
So for me, that was my top 10. Pretty comfortably. I didn't really have too many qualms about getting those guys in there. Then I think you jump into a tier of basically you can get any one of these 8 or 9 names into those last 2 spots. But you mentioned that you had someone else above Chet. That was more of an easier shoe-in for you. So who was that guy?
I don't know if easier shoe-in's the word, but I definitely more so like these two guys like next to each other where, all right, I just would have a hard time kind of getting one of these guys off the list. Okay. And then, I mean, if you want to, maybe talk me off the cliff on one of these guys, maybe I'll be real willing to jump with you. That's an awful analogy. Anyway, for me, I personally included Devin Booker. I have Devin Booker as an all-star. I think I just value Phoenix has been a great story. They've had a great season, obviously. I do just value kind of what Devin Booker brings to them and how much attention he is just going to create and how many advantages he's going to set up for them offensively, even when he doesn't have the ball in his hands. The Suns this season have a 117 offensive rating with Devin Booker on the floor. His on-off is plus 4.2. I think he doesn't get enough credit sometimes for how much he does like positively contribute to the Suns defense. Like, he's not this cone, I don't think, defensively. I don't think he gets credit. Obviously, he has some of the playmaking. I think an argument you could have against Devin Booker is the fact that he's just basically relatively average true shooting. I think his relative true shooting is literally plus 0.2% this season. But Devin Booker, the head of the snake on a playoff team currently, I get it. We normally don't do the whole standings thing, but like, dude, the Suns are exceeding all people's expectations. We've talked about that a lot sometimes ad nauseum. And he's still averaging 25 and 6 this season on, average efficiency, but the impact that he and the amount of space he creates for their offense with his off-ball action, with his ability to make reads out of ball screens, he hasn't even been this uber efficient ball screen scorer, especially compared to years past. Like this season, he's shooting 7% worse on pick and roll threes than last season, and mind you, and also like he shot like 29% on pick and roll threes, so not even great last season. He's at 22 this season. That's the difference between him being essentially he's at 0.86 points per possession this season on ball screens, and he was at 0.93 points per possession on ball screens last year, which puts him in the 71st percentile. So we're talking about a decent jump still, and I don't think Devin Booker is a 7% worse three-point shooter on pull-up threes at a ball screen. So there's almost some expectation for regression to the mean. Kind of what we saw from Luka. Luka started off the season hot garbage on pull-up threes. So you expect that positive regression to the mean. We know how good of a player Devin Booker is and the impact he has on that Suns offense, which is surprising a lot of people. I've wanted to give him a nod for All-Star.
So I'm going to go against my own kind of theory. So here's where my head's at, right? So Devin Booker actually was my 13th guy. He was my first guy off, and I really struggled with cutting him because I do agree with everything you just said. He's kind of slept on, and the season he was having for Phoenix as a creator and his ability to flex between roles. Like, one of the reasons you get this leap from Colin Gillespie is because Booker's the type of off guard who can enable that. And the same thing from Dylan Brooks. He's enabled to do what he does in the offense. Guys like Mark Williams and Oso Ighodaro are just so much, like, they're just utilized so well when Booker's on the court because of everything he does, because of how dynamic of a creator he is. What's weird for me, so one of the big talking points I brought up in that value episode of 2 episodes ago was the idea that Derek White's three-point percentage isn't actually significant because of the fact that he's still guarded the same as if he was a 40% shooter. And then for those other 70 possessions that he's on the court or whatever where he's not taking a three, those are the ones that add up and add value. Mm-hmm. With Booker, I think a similar thing is happening where like defenses don't react to the threat of his pull-up jumper any differently than they usually would, or same thing when he's off the catch. Like you're still going to close out hard to him because he's been a proven off the catch 3-point threat. But I think it's a little bit different when it's a guy who you're legitimately running your offense through and is your number one, and you rely on for his shot making to be a huge part of your offense. And I think Booker suffers from the timing of this 3-point slump because I don't think he's a 31% 3-point shooter. Just a couple weeks ago, I'm pretty sure he was shooting 29% from three. So it's like he obviously isn't that bad of a shooter, but I think the timing is so bad that when the All-Star game is played, I wouldn't be surprised if he's at like 34 or 35% and I have to eat my words. But like just based off of what it is right now, it's hard for me to give Booker the nod over some of these other guys, some of these other offensive engines that have been more consistent with their shot making, whereas Booker just lags a little bit behind. Maybe that's too harsh, but it's just kind of like because I think all of these guys are so close and they're all all-star level players, I had to be annoying and split hairs. Sure. So that's kind of where my head was at with the Booker stuff. But also, there's the part of me that's like, Devin Booker, his free throw rate has been absurd. And as long as he's getting to the line like 8 or 9 times a game and making almost 90% of those, it's hard to care about the shot making. You know, because it's like, he's still going to give you very productive scoring on a night-to-night basis. And he can get his game off against any defense. So I had a tough time with Book.
Yeah, Devin Booker's having a career year at free throw attempts per game. So
you know, I made a graph, and I ended up not using it. I scrapped it, but I was working on a video. I won't spoil the video because it will still come out, but this graph won't be a part of it. I did a since December 1st correlation between 2-point attempts and free throw attempts, right? Like how many free throws you get for how many 2-point attempts you get. And there were a few guys who get like an overwhelming amount of free throws for how many twos they shoot. And those names were like the typical Trae Young, Denny Avdija, Luka Doncic, like the guys who just get a ton of fouls. Yeah. And then there was this other group of like physically overwhelming and dominant players who shoot a ton of twos and draw a ton of fouls, and they're just like overwhelming inside the arc scorers. And it was like Giannis, Embiid, Zion, and Wemby, and then Devin Booker. And I was like, what the heck is going on that Booker is drawing fouls and getting to the, like these twos at the level of these absolute behemoths? And I almost like when that was in the back of my head, I was like, Booker clearly generates a ton of pressure inside the arc.
Yeah.
So again, it feels like almost disrespectful to value the 3-point percentage as much as I am, but
he's at 11. He's at over 11 free throw attempts per 100 possessions.
Yeah. Yeah, Booker's a tough one. Maybe by the end of this, I'll move him over one of my last two guys because I don't feel good about leaving him off, but it's hard. It's really difficult. I'm glad Adam Silver isn't coming to me and making me pick the teams.
So who's the guy who's one of your guys that you had over him?
One of my guys that I had over him was James Harden.
Okay.
And this is where I was going with just because the Clippers are 21 and 24, I think they're 22 and 24 now or whatever. Just because they're below 500, it doesn't mean they can't have two All-Stars.
Yeah.
When Harden and Kawhi are on the court together, I believe they're like approaching like +7. Let me make sure. Harden and Kawhi on the court together this season, +7.7 net rating now, if you exclude garbage time. Kawhi and Harden on the court together, excluding garbage time, 125.5 offensive rating. That is absurd.
Wait, Kawhi and Harden on the floor together?
On the floor together.
Okay.
125.5 offensive rating, +7.7 net rating. So clearly they're an elite team when both are on the court together. And again, like, the problem is that when neither of them are on the court, they have a 101 offensive rating and a -15 net rating. So am I going to fault James Harden and Kawhi in All-Star voting because of the Clippers being the worst team in NBA history when they're on the bench? No, I'm not. Obviously, they could do better in their staggers. Like, Harden without Kawhi is -3. Kawhi without Harden is -1.8. You would like to see that be a little bit better.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's, like, super problematic. And it's been trending up with every game. They just keep getting better and better and better. Harden had to carry such an insane offensive load when, like, at the beginning of the year when Kawhi still wasn't, like... Kawhi clearly turned it up a notch in mid-December. Up until mid-December, You had Zoo, who dropped weight and wasn't nearly as effective as a post player. John Collins could not throw a rock into the ocean. Now he's just the best shot maker in NBA history over the last month, but couldn't drop a rock into the ocean. You had the weird Chris Paul stuff going on. Basically, everything was going wrong for the Clippers.
Bad. Yeah.
Yeah. Everything was bad. Everything was terrible, except for James Harden, who was just like casually dropping 30 balls easily and still looking like one of the best on-ball playmakers in the planet. And the three-point shot was going, and he's getting to the rim at the highest rate he's gotten in years. And everything looked good for James Harden. And now he's kind of taking a little bit of a back seat in terms of his offensive production because they're enabling Kawhi to do what he does, and he's initiating a lot more. But I don't think that takes away from Harden's value. I still think Harden is driving the ship for this offense in a lot of ways, especially when Kawhi's off the court. And yeah, it's tough for me to look at what he's done from start to finish and the type of offensive load he had to carry and really like not include him in this.
That's completely fair. So, I'm stressing out about something, and it's my last spot. Who's your last spot go to? I have 4 guys I'm really considering.
My last spot went to Denny Avdia.
Okay.
Denny, I think, deserves a lot of credit for just how much downhill pressure he generates for that offense. Like, it's kind of absurd. I think he's averaging like 23 drives a game or something crazy. It's like peak Shea numbers for drives per game. It's absurd. And Portland's offense isn't spaced well. Like, they don't have great three-point shooters. I mean, not that they do things bad spacing, like from a conceptual standpoint, but they don't have a lot of three-point shooters. So Denny's just creating downhill pressure in transition situations, through traffic, through the gaps, turning the corner off of ball screens. The jump shot obviously has been improving in recent years. He can play with or without the ball. He can stampede. He can be used as a screener. They do a lot of creative things with him. But the main thing is just the fact that, and maybe I'm giving him a lot of credit for the way the game is officiated, but there is nothing defenses can do if he wants to draw a foul. Like, if Denny Avdia gets ahead of steam, you basically have to let him shoot a floater or a layup because you're gonna send him to the line if you get in his way. I think since December 1st, like, remember I brought up those 2-point attempts and free throw attempts. I'm pretty sure since December 1st, he's averaging 12 free throws a game, and he's actually averaging more than Luka. He's leading the league in free throw attempts, and a lot of people scoff at that because it's like ethical hoops or whatever and all that stuff. But in terms of adding value in the basketball court, getting to the line 12 times a game has an absurd value. And you brought up, what was it? The Suns with Booker on the court were a 117 offensive rating.
Yeah.
Again, excluding garbage time. The Blazers with Denny on the court are like approaching 120 offensive rating.
119.5.
119. Do you have the number for what it is when he's off the court?
Yeah, it's 104.4. He has an on-off of plus 9.7.
A 15-point swing. Denny Avdia is the Blazers' offense. That's the best way of putting it. He's Portland's offense. And I could not overlook that. Because of the way, like, I think they're around 500. And they have an above average offense.
Not like the 10 seed or the 9 seed? 9 seed, I guess. Let me see.
Yeah, they're like 24 and 25 or something like that.
Yeah, they're the 9 seed.
The one thing I will say, if you wanted to go against the grain with Denny, there is a signal to me at least that I haven't looked into the numbers, but just like based off of what I've seen, elite defensive teams kind of like really bother him because he can't just do his whole like downhill brute force thing. Like, I know he had a really poor game against OKC, maybe even 2 of them, because he doesn't really have like a ton of mid-range counters. He's not a great shooter. He's not a bad one, but he's not a great shooter. Doesn't have a great floater. And then also his passing is very wishy-washy. Like, he struggles to make high-level reads when he's on the move. Like, once he makes up his mind that he's going to drop that shoulder and get to the paint, it's very tunnel vision. Like, I do think a guy like Booker is a lot more dynamic as a passer. And then also because of how much of an offensive load Denny carries for that Portland offense, the defense has really slipped this year. He hasn't really been like an impact defender. I'd even say at times he's looked like a negative. So that's what's tough for me with Denny. Yeah, what are your thoughts on Denny, and who are some of the other guys that you've got in this mix?
So I have four guys. So the six guys that I pretty much had locked were Kawhi, Jamal, Kevin Durant, Anthony Edwards, Devin Booker, and Chet. Um, the four guys that I've been kind of wrestling with the entire time were Rudy Gobert, Denny Avdia, James Harden, and Alperen Sengun. Those were the four guys that I've kind of wrestled with. Did I
I
miss
had all
somebody?
of
I'm
those
going
names
off
too
here.
in this group. I had all of those names in this group too, and then also I had LeBron.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. I'm making a honorable mention and make a third team spot and giving it to LeBron. Um, in
Okay,
in in
okay.
in the scenario where LeBron just retires after this year. So we're gonna give
Well,
LeBron in the All
let me
Star.
say this, right? Like from the spirit of impact over the entirety of the season, I don't think LeBron's been one of the 12 best players in the West. But just purely like going away from my criteria and like what I want to see, I 100% want to see LeBron in the All Star game. Like that, I would be like that would not feel right if they announced the teams and LeBron wasn't a selection. That would be really odd to me.
Yeah. So LeBron is he's 13. Um, but those are the four guys I'm primarily looking at. And really, it's kind of three, even if you want to like shrink it down even more. It's really Harden, Gobert, and Denny. I think the thing with Denny, like you said, I mean, he is their offense. The fact that there is a 15-point on-off swing on the offensive end of the floor, they go from being a top five, top three offense on the floor to literally the worst offense in basketball when Denny Avdia is off the floor. I think it speaks to even on his bad nights how impactful and how valuable he is to that team, specifically on the offensive end of the floor. Rudy Gobert, the argument almost makes itself. Obviously, all-time defensive player, and having another defensive player of the year caliber season. I think, and that you kind of sparked my brain when you're talking about Harden and Kawhi and the value that they bring to the Clippers on with their on-off stuff and them two on the floor together. So Rudy and Ant, they're a +6. We'll just call it +7 because the net rating is +6.7. So +7 net rating. Anthony Edwards with by the way, 112 defensive rating, 118, 119 offensive rating with Ant and Gobert on the floor. So again, top three, top five offense, and probably like the 10th, anywhere from like 10 to 12, if I remember like where the 12th best defense is. Ant on the floor, no Rudy. 120 offensive rating. They're an elite offense still, but they have a negative net rating because their defense with Rudy Gobert on the floor, off the floor, is atrocious. Even though the Minnesota Timberwolves would have pretty clearly, I think, like a bottom 12 offense in the league, what would a 110 offensive rating get you? 110.
That might be
110.
last.
One,
That might be last.
okay,
It's definitely like
a
bottom
110
five.
offensive rating would be the third worst offense in basketball.
Yeah.
The only teams would be better than would be the Kings, the Wizards, and the Pacers. But that group still
Halliburton.
has a +9 net rating with Rudy on the floor and no Ant because they're the best defense in basketball. So they're able to stagger and not lose those minutes with Anthony Edwards on off the floor as long as Rudy's on the floor because, hey, we're going to have some struggle buckets. It's going to be Nas Reed hooping or Julius Randle, getting tunnel vision, attacking 7 different people, including his own teammates downhill. But hey, we're gonna win these minutes because we're gonna have an elite defense, the best defense in basketball. And then Harden obviously has a great angle to that. I thought you gave a great case for Harden, especially earlier in the year, his impact and how much he had to do for them to kind of even keep their heads semi above water when everybody else thought they were drowning. He was the one kind of saving grace for that team. And then he's still been productive and been impactful for them, especially offensively. We're just seeing more enabling for Kawhi over this recent stretch. I think I've honestly just talked myself into Rudy. I think it's insane that they're able to have the best defense in basketball with him on the floor, no Ant. And how many situations can we like say, yeah, this team could just lose their best player? And I am not saying that the Timberwolves are better with Ant off the floor, or they're better with Ant off the floor. I'm not saying that. What I am saying, though, is from an impact standpoint, Rudy is still incredibly important to that team. And again, the fact that you're able to take your best player off the floor and consistently win those minutes, as long as you have this defensive apex caliber player on the floor, I'm going to over value that potentially, and I'm going to give my last nod to Rudy.
What in the world just happened? You had Rudy Gobert as an all-star and I didn't. What are
the roles flipped? If I didn't look at that, if you didn't have the Harden and Kawhi duo conversation, it would have got me to look at that. So it's still an assist. You threw a lob.
There we go. It's like a lob to Gobert, and by the way, he's catching and dunking those this year. That's the thing that made it tough for Rudy too. Is like clearly just took serious steps forward on offense. He's been very productive with his positioning, with his screening, and specifically the offensive rebounding has been a huge part of Minnesota's offense during those minutes with Ant. So I do think Gobert is worthy of a nod. I had him just outside of that. The other guy that you brought up that I also had in this group of like heavily considered was Alperen Şengün. Şengün's a really weird player. He's a super unique player. There's no one really like him in the league because there's so much to like and then so much to question. For example, Şengün just does not have great touch around the rim. Just like clearly a weakness of his. And he's also not an above the rim athlete. So he doesn't benefit from any of the easy stuff that is created for him, right? Like pick and roll stuff, put back opportunities, transition opportunity. Like he's not efficient in any of the easy play types. And that just really caps his ceiling from a scoring efficiency standpoint. Like you're never going to get the Jokic type of signal where you get up to 65, 66% true shooting. You'll just never see that from Şengün because he doesn't thrive in those touch situations and those play finishing situations. So he doesn't benefit from the team around him getting better offensively. Like a guy like KD comes in and Şengün's scoring does not change. Whereas usually when you add a guy like KD, like things become easier. Like there's a lot more space. There's another creator on the floor. Şengün doesn't benefit from that. But then Şengün also has this super unique, like I can initiate the offense like a point guard because I can handle and pass, and I can literally run this offense. And he's clearly such a huge part of Houston's offense in every way because they need him to be the point guard a lot of the times. They need him to be an advantage creator out of the post because he's a very good creator. And then also, he's one of the best offensive rebounders in the league, which plays directly into the way they dominate second chance opportunities. So It's super weird, but then it's like it creates this weird statistical signal where like clearly he's super important for Houston's offense, but then he's like 21 points a game on 56% true shooting. And I don't know what to do with that. I will say, Şengün at the beginning of the year, first 2.5 weeks, I think it was, looked like an All-NBA player. Would have been a shoo-in for the All-Star team. He's had some nagging injuries, and ever since then, it just hasn't looked the same. It's been more flashes. Like, he just a few days ago, he had like a 13 for 15 game. Great performance. But then their most recent game against San Antonio, total dud. Barely scores. So yeah, I think Şengün with the injury stuff, it's tough to throw him in here. But like, I do still want to acknowledge like how important he is to that offense. The fact that he is still a clear plus defender, and the fact that at the beginning of the season he was looking like an All-NBA candidate.
Shout out Şengün.
Shout out Şengün. I had 3 other names that I didn't really heavily consider, but I just wanted to throw out there. Lowry Markkanen, De'Aaron Fox, and Julius Randle were the other 3 for me.
I didn't know what to do with this one, so I had Lauri Markkanen, LeBron James, Julius Randle. I wanted to give Austin Reeves a shout. I think the injury kind of
100%.
hurt him and hurt his case, but he was playing very clearly at an all-star caliber level.
He was All-NBA. Austin Reeves was playing. I was about to say Austin Rivers. That's crazy. Austin Reeves was playing amazing, so I'm glad you brought him up because he probably actually, like, if he sustained that level of play and was fully healthy, I maybe even would have had him on my team. I'm very high on this version of Austin Reeves. Do you want to talk about LeBron more lengthier? Like, LeBron's a tough one. He was the guy that I had in mind when I said, like, do you account for the level they're at right now or just the totality of the season? Because LeBron had this weird ramp-up period where he basically didn't even look like an NBA player for a couple weeks. And then ever since then, it's been kind of smooth sailing LeBron. But it's like also this version of smooth sailing LeBron is basically I'm going to take half the game off defensively. I'm going to not get into the paint for 20 straight possessions because I'm kind of just chilling, doing my thing, extra passing, sometimes just a connector, sometimes going to take over the game. You don't really know what to expect. LeBron's a really hard player to evaluate, I feel like.
Yeah. LeBron is probably the toughest player evaluation for a player making over a max contract. I don't think that's close.
Yeah, and then you have this weird, also getting into the lineup data again, there's this really weird signal, like LeBron and Luka on the court is not good. They're not good together. And then, but like the Luka without LeBron minutes are very good. So what do you do with that? Because like obviously Luka is the focal point of this Lakers team. So it's really weird, man.
I think the other signal. So okay, we're going like offensive signal or signals in general. Luka and LeBron, no Austin's a -4 basically. Luka by himself is with no Austin or LeBron's a +2. Luka and Austin and LeBron's a +20.
Shout out Austin Reeves, man. What a hooper.
Austin by himself is like a -5. Luka, Austin, Braun. I'm assuming those lineups are god awful. I would imagine. Anyway, all three of them are -11. Austin and Braun's a -4, but LeBron by himself is a +6. So,
because that's when you get LeBron running the show. It's weird. It's so weird, dude.
yeah.
I didn't know what to do with him. Like I said, I want him to make the All-Star team, but over the entire, like the totality of the season from an impact standpoint, it was hard for me to argue him over Denny Avdia or James Harden or even like guys that I cut like Booker and Gobert.
Yeah, if we're talking about like just impact and season performance in general, Austin's the easier sell. Austin's the way easier sell. LeBron's gonna make the All-Star game 100%. But if we're like basing it off of
I'm scared, man. I'm scared.
I would be stunned if LeBron's not an All-Star.
I would too, but like, isn't it? Don't the coaches pick the bench?
Do they?
I think so.
Ah, well.
I could be wrong. But even if he doesn't make it, you imagine like the NBA is gonna put him in it, right? Like, there's no way, dude. Kobe Bryant was an All-Star all 3 of those years, right? Like 2014, 15, and 16, I think.
I know his final year for sure. One of those years he was hurt and out because of it was either the knee or the rotator cuff. Might have missed both of those because of those. I know they were like,
he was an All-Star in all of them. I just looked at it. He was an All-Star. He played 6 games in 2014 and was an All-Star. So like I said, if LeBron doesn't make the All-Star, like, dude, they got to put him in like they did with Kobe. There's no way they don't.
Yeah.
Absolutely no way. So yeah, if Adam Silver comes to me and is like, yo, we need you to pick the All-Star team, there will be 25 All-Stars. LeBron James will be on the team. Anything else you want to talk about in the West, or do you want to move on?
I think we should move on.
We should probably move on. This is going to be a 7-hour-long podcast. To refresh everyone's memory, the Eastern Conference starters were Giannis, Cade, Tyrese Maxey, Jalen Brunson, and Jaylen Brown. Easy shoe-in. We probably don't have to spend too much time on this. Is Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah.
I personally had Mitchell as a starter when I originally did it. He obviously didn't end up starting, but
who'd you take out of the starters? Was it Brunson?
Oh, you're gonna make me say it. You're gonna make me say it. No, it was Jaylen Brown.
Okay.
And I love the season Jaylen Brown's having, but Jaylen Brown is one of those guys who I think gets the benefit. And I'm gonna sound like such a hater here. I love Jaylen Brown. I just did a Jaylen Brown video. Celtics fans, this is not personal. This is not a shot. This applies to a lot of players. Jaylen Brown has not played a lick of defense this entire season, but he's one of those players who already built up the reputation of a two-way player. So no matter what, he now gets that label. So now that the offense is reaching new heights, the talking point is Jaylen Brown the best two-way player in basketball? When he has, like I said, the only game I've seen him play consistent defense in is when he was matched up one-on-one with Kawhi against the Clippers. Which I think he also had 50 in that game. So yeah, if you want to talk about the ceiling Jaylen Brown hits, yeah, he can lock down Kawhi and drop 50. Yeah, but it's like on a game-to-game basis, Jaylen Brown is not defending anything. He's a very weak off-ball defender, just taking plays off, doesn't fight through screens at all. And it's like, yes, the offensive leap is great. He's the focal point of the number 2 offense in the league, I believe. Boston is right now. But I do still think Donovan Mitchell is a more complete and more dynamic offensive player. I think he's a better creator, better floor spacer. But yeah, that it's like splitting hairs. I did slightly prefer Donovan Mitchell to Jaylen Brown, but if if you told me you had Jaylen Brown over even Brunson or Mitchell, I wouldn't be mad at it. I do think Giannis, Cade, and probably Maxey had to be the top three, though.
Yeah, I would agree.
So you had Donovan Mitchell as a shoe-in, too. We don't have to get into the numbers on that, I'm assuming.
We don't have to talk about Donovan.
My next guy with the East that was pretty easy to me was Scotty Barnes. And I already made the point earlier when we were talking about the inside the NBA reserves. It's just the fact that he's maybe the focal point of Toronto's offense. Like, it's either him or Ingram. But Scotty does operate in the middle of the floor a lot. He's a big connector for them, a big passing hub. He's a big play finisher. He's involved in a lot of actions as a screener and as a cutter. The best passer on the team. Probably the best rebounder on the team, if I'm not forgetting anyone, because Pirtle's been out. And then probably like a first-team all-defensive candidate. Just does everything, just clear winning player, big impact on a team that's 29-20, fighting for the second seed in the East. Pretty easy all-star to me.
Yeah, Scotty Barnes has been phenomenal this season. I also have Scotty Barnes as one of my shoe-ins. The versatility they provides on both ends of the floor, being their point forward, being a capable play finisher, let me look at his like play type data really fast. While I'm looking that up, like you said, we already kind of touched on the defense and the fact that he's going to be a first team all defensive nod.
He's an insanely versatile defender. Like, I just saw a clip, I can't remember who it was, but he was full court pressing like an elite ball handler. Right, and sticking with him move for move, and then forced a turnover on the play. I think it was a really high level player. It might have been LaMelo Ball that he was full court pressing and forcing to turn the ball over. But then also he's a rim protector. Like I said, he's a rebounder. He guards all five. He can play every pick and roll coverage. Like, he's just such a chess piece. Him and Colin Murray Boyles is a duo. Crazy.
Yeah, he's the type of like defensive chess piece that I think every coach would want to have on their team entering a playoff series.
100%.
He could just master every single skill, or every single coverage. My bad. So the versatility he provides for you on both ends of the floor, the playmaking that he provides, the downhill creation that he has. Also, just the fact that you can go 2-man game with him and quickly because of his play finishing out of pick and rolls. Or again, he could be the decision maker if you want to give them an advantage and go 3-on-2 on the backside and. He can make those reads to a Grady Dick, Jacoby Walter, Brandon Ingram, RJ. I think Scotty has to be an all-star nod.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, real quick, side note. Have you seen a lot of the recent clips and talks around DeAndre Ayton and his play for the Lakers?
I'm trying to avoid it. Why?
Well, I keep seeing these clips of him catching wide open lobs and then trying to lay the ball in. Or, like, having an opportunity to get after the ball on the offensive glass and then not fighting for it or not being physical enough to get in position to grab it. And I just want to highlight how valuable it is to have a center who's going to grab every single ball near the rim and then also dunk every single ball he touches. And my next shoe-in was Jalen Duren.
Jalen Duren was a shoe-in.
Is a monster, dude. Like,
I had 4 shoe-ins.
He has, like, 3 highlight dunks every single game. And they're all lobs, and it's just like, it doesn't matter if the weak side guy's coming over. It doesn't matter if there's 2 defenders in the paint. It doesn't matter if he doesn't even get open at all. Cade can just toss the ball anywhere near the basket, and it's getting dunked. And it's just so valuable. And then also, he's just been another guy that's like having an all-defensive type of impact season. It's crazy. I saw a stat from, I believe it was from Synergy's tracking. I could be wrong. It was the best pick and roll duos in the league defensively that have defended at least 50 pick and rolls. Asar and Duren were like number 1, and then I think Duncan Robinson and Duren were like number 4. And I'm like, oh, so either Duncan Robinson is the best point of attack defender ever, or Duren is a common denominator. Duren's elite. He's maybe the best rebounder in the league, probably the best lob threat in the league. Can play make out of the short roll, can operate in dribble handoff type of action. Legitimately can create downhill too. Yeah, Jalen Duren's freaking awesome.
Yeah, Jalen Duren, first of all, if I am a screen roll big primarily, I am telling my agent, hey, like, can we get to Detroit or can we get to LA? Because I'm watching what Jalen Duren's doing and I want dibs Or I'm watching what Jalen Duren's doing and watching what DeAndre Ayton's not doing and saying, I want dibs. I can do what he's not doing. Give me next to Luka. Jalen Duren is averaging 6.5 offensive rebounds per 100 possessions, which is...
That's insane.
Yeah,
that's insane.
Yeah, that's absurd. And, I mean, again, we're talking about, like, development curves to a certain extent, right? And maybe this is more of a JB Bickerstaff thing. I also want to give Jalen Duren credit for, like, putting in the effort. Jalen Duren was a negative defender 2 years ago.
Yeah.
He was a positive defender last year. He's legitimately a really good defensive big now, which is awesome for Detroit. The Cade and Duren 2-man game, if we're just talking about like spread or empty side pick and roll, it's one of the most difficult. It's got to be up there among like the 5 or so most difficult 2-man games to guard on any given possession. And then you tack in a Duncan Robinson as a guy you could throw into 3-man action and stuff, or like Spain pick and roll, or some stuff where you could go DHO game with Duren, Cade, and Duncan involved, and you have Asar in the dunk, or Ron Holland in the dunker, and Tobias Space. It's really unique. They have a +10 net rating with him on the floor. His on-off is +5 in general. Yeah, I mean, Duren's awesome. He was a pretty easy shoe-in. I'm glad you also agree with that. Like, I don't know if you, I'm not going to show you my iPad because it has my list of all my guys. But it was Donovan Mitchell, Scotty Barnes, Jalen Duren, and then one more guy that I had to have in.
I also have one more guy, but before we get to that one guy, I want to throw like just a crazy little numbers at you that show how good Duren is and also just how good the Pistons are. So Duren and Cade on the court together, again excluding garbage time, 10.5 net rating, right? Cade on the court without Duren, +6 net rating. Duren on the court without Cade, +6.7 net rating. Neither of them on the court, +4.3 net rating. Like, what a squad, dude. Detroit is nasty, and Jalen Duren's like the ultimate. If you built a player in a lab, like from scratch, and was like, build the most Detroit basketball player you can possibly conjure up, it would literally be Jalen Duren, and then the next closest guy would probably be Asar Thompson. So, vibes are high in Detroit. 34-11, man. Actually, they might have lost tonight, so they might be 34-12 now.
Yeah,
they were losing when I was looking.
They lost.
Who'd they play? I can't remember. It was Phoenix. Shout out to Phoenix too, another team that's just good across the board. Okay. Who was your one more shoe-in? I assume we have the same guy.
Maybe we do, maybe we don't. The shoe-in, the other guy I have, and I'm ready to have the discussion and support him. I'm going Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid has been ridiculous since he's been healthy in air quotes, because he still looks so physically limited with some of the ways that he's moving on the floor. He's been playing super consistently since around Christmas. In his last 20 games, he's averaging 28 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists on +4 true shooting, which is, I mean, phenomenal, especially for Embiid, where he is. I mean, if we're just gonna like keep a spade, he shouldn't be able to play at this level at all. Like, the amount of injuries and how banged up he's been, they've been better with him on the floor. They're a plus. His on-off is nearly a +7. He's still the ultimate mismatch hunter that you could just throw the ball at the elbow or throw the ball in the pinch post and stuff like that and kind of let him operate from. He still has the 2-man game with Maxey, obviously. That stuff never really went away. He's a 71st percentile post-up scorer. He's an 89th percentile isolation scorer. It beats the man. And I'm really, really happy that he's gone back and has been playing at a really, really high level for the past 20 games or so. If it wasn't as consistent like this recent stretch in terms of A, him playing, and B, just his level of play in general recently, I wouldn't have him on my list. And I understand not having Joel Embiid as an all-star. I want to get that as perfectly clear as possible. But he's been playing at an all-star caliber level since he's been healthy. He's been playing really consistently. By the time we get to the All-Star break for about a month and a half at that point, I'm going to reward Joel Embiid and have him on my list.
Yeah, Joel Embiid wasn't my like next shoe-in, but I did have him as my 10th guy. He was an all-star for me pretty comfortably. And it's everything you talked about. It's the fact that he's getting back to not peak form, but like the next step below that.
Yeah.
Just like very clearly just the super high level big. When he's on the court without Maxey, there's still a positive net rating. Now that like Paul George is also coming back and looking pretty good, Philly's kind of just been a little bit of like a sneaky juggernaut whenever they're fully healthy. And what's crazy to me is the fact that Embiid's remained this impactful of a defensive player too, on top of all of the offensive stuff with the way he's like had to basically relearn how to walk and stuff. It's crazy. And Joel Embiid is just, he's one of those guys who's always going to suffer from being compared to himself. Because even in my head, I was like, maybe Joel Embiid's playing a little bit worse than I thought he was. And obviously, I don't think the box score is the end-all, be-all. But I was like, what if I compare Joel Embiid to, for example, Karl Anthony Towns? And Joel Embiid has been an overwhelmingly better scorer than Cat this season, which was kind of like shocking to me. Because in my head, I compare Embiid to, oh, at one point Embiid was basically a demigod on the court. I had a revelation. Maybe it was this morning or yesterday. I can't remember. I was just randomly chilling and this thought just popped in my head, and this is going so off track. We're just yapping at this point, but this is what the people are here for. I had the thought that if you were to describe prime Joel Embiid to somebody who's never watched basketball, they would think you made up like a 2K character. I was like, what if I told you that the biggest player in the NBA was handling the ball like a guard, shooting 50% from mid-range, almost 40% from three, and 90% from the free throw line? That was what Joel Embiid was doing. And he was also a top 10 defender in the league. That was peak Joel Embiid. So you are automatically doing anyone a disservice, especially Joel Embiid himself, if that's the standard. No, let's compare Joel Embiid to Karl Anthony Towns and all these other guys who are like on the borderline of being an all-star, not Joel Embiid to Joel Embiid, because peak Joel Embiid might actually be the most talented player to ever step foot on a basketball court. I don't even think that's far-fetched to say. Did you see what Doc Rivers said?
I saw what
a couple days ago.
I think I saw your tweet too.
That's what's been on my mind ever since. I'm like, Joel Embiid really is just like the most absurdly like made up basketball player. He started playing basketball when he was 17?
16.
And then he goes and averages 35 a game and is just sleepwalking to 30 and 15 for 40 games. Absurd basketball player, and I'm glad he's getting back to form. And he's like moving shockingly well. Like that lob he caught from Maxey a couple nights ago, got up higher than I thought he'd ever get up again. So scary hours in Philly. My guy for the other shoe-in was Jalen Johnson.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a similar thing to what we talked about with Denny in Portland. And it's just the fact that Jalen Johnson is so important to Atlanta's offense. And it's not even like an on-off thing. Like, I don't even think Atlanta's offense really falls off when Jalen Johnson's not on the court. But I think visually, it becomes a lot harder for them to create advantages when they don't have that athletic downhill presence on the court. And then just tonight, actually, they played without Jalen Johnson, and I think they scored 86 points or something like that. Like, and obviously that's not just a one-game sample isn't going to tell us much, but I do think Jalen Johnson's a huge part of Atlanta's offense, and he's one of those guys who just does a little bit of everything, and throughout the course of a game, the impact is just felt, right? Like, he can play with or without the ball. He's going to screen. He's going to come off of ball screens. He's going to get on the glass. He's a really high-level passer, especially for his position. The one thing I will say, the hang up with Jalen Johnson, that I do think he's another guy who I think because he's big, lengthy, and athletic, he gets this like automatic defensive boost in everyone's head. He has not been a good defender this season, just straight up. Like, I actually think he's been a pretty bad defender this season. In previous seasons, I'd say he's been pretty good, but that would be the hang up. Like, if you made the argument that Jalen Johnson isn't actually as integral to Atlanta's offense as I'm making it out to be, and he's also just been this weaker defender, I don't think it's completely bad. Like, I don't fully disagree if someone were to snub Jalen Johnson. I just personally had him as a stronger shoe-in.
I have Jalen Johnson as well. I had one person above him, and that player and I'm going pure. This is going to be me being a nerd and pure because I think this is honestly like impressive on his part. Given, we've talked about it, hasn't really shot the ball well this season. I think you know where we're going with this. I have Derek White as an all-star, and I think one of the things we're talking about impact, we're talking about value to a team, right? If you look at like some of the major like impact data, right? Like LeBron, Darko, whatever, right? I'm gonna like focus on the LeBron metric specifically, B-ball index. Derek White, and mind you, this is not the end all be all. It's an impact stat. I think the way that I kind of like to talk about a lot of this is like referring it to kind of like PFF for football, where I think there's some really, really good ones, and then there's some maybe iffy ones or ones that you maybe take with context. So if you look at the LeBron metric, Shea is number 1 in the LeBron metric, Jokic is number 2, Kade's number 3, Luka, Kawhi, Tyrese Maxey's number 9. But then you have like some weird ones like AJ Mitchell at number 10 and stuff like that.
Whoa.
AJ Mitchell the Hooper. That's an OKC bump. All seriousness though. Can you guess where Derek White is?
I'm gonna guess 12th.
Derek White is 6th in B-ball index's LeBron metric. He's still a really high level defensive player. The fact, even though, and we've talked about this a lot, especially recently, he has had a pretty significant decrease in shooting efficiency and shooting volume this season. Doesn't mean he's not going to get that same treatment. And, okay, Jaylen Brown's awesome. Derek White and Jaylen Brown as a duo, they're a +7, we'll call it +8 net rating, with the 122 offense. Derek White with no Jaylen Brown is a +13 net rating. They also go from being a middle-of-the-pack defense to one of the best defenses in the league. Jaylen Brown, no Derek White, is easily the best offense in the league, a 123 offensive rating, but they're basically a neutral team with no Derek White but Jaylen Brown on the floor. And that's not me crapping on Jaylen Brown. That's more so Derek White's really, really good at basketball and is really, really important for Boston, kind of surprising a lot of people, despite the fact number-wise. And I think, honestly, me having Derek White as an all-star supports me having Devin Booker as an all-star in a weird way. Because, again, he isn't shooting the ball well from 3, but, 1, he's still getting guarded like he is, because you're not just going to want to walk into Derek White shooting open 40% catch-and-shoot threes, or the fear of that, rather. And the fact that whether it's the connected playmaking, the secondary ball handling, and things like that, he provides the smart decision making. If I didn't emphasize that enough, Derek White's awesome. He's an all-star for me. He's not going to make the all-star game. I'd be stunned if he does get in, but I mean, he's in there for me.
Yeah, Derek White's also in there for me. I'm glad you included him. I think he is easily the most mischaracterized basketball player I've ever seen in my lifetime. And I've been doing this whole Derek White spiel for a long time now, but it really bothers me, the way he gets talked about as this spot-up shooter role player on the offense. Every year since he got to Boston, he's been second on the team in touches behind Tatum. He initiates a lot of offense for Boston, and he's a big part of how they create offense. This season, he's averaging 80 touches a game. He's averaging 80 touches a game. I don't even know where that ranks in the league. Let me actually make sure. 80 touches a game. That is more touches per game than James Harden, Anthony Edwards, Donovan Mitchell, Paolo Banchero, Giannis, Ja Morant, LaMelo, LeBron, De'Aaron Fox, Jaylen Brown. He's leading the Celtics in touches. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11th. Derek White is 11th in the NBA in touches per game. He has the ball in his hands for 5.5 minutes a game, and he's averaging 1.8 turnovers. So talk about a turnover suppressor, and guess what? Boston is the best turnover team in the league. They're first in turnovers per game and second in turnover percentage, which is the biggest catalyst for why they're the number 2 offensive rating. I saw a crazy... this is another tweet I made. I basically am just recounting all my tweets at this point.
Basically.
But, Taylor Metrics from Basketball Index. I'm blanking on his full name, but we love Taylor Metrics.
Wyman?
Wyman. I think you got it. Yep, I think it's Wyman. Shout out to Taylor Wyman. Great content over on Twitter. He tweeted about Boston having the number 2 offense, despite all 4 of their leading scorers having a below league average true shooting percentage. It was Jaylen Brown, Derek White, Peyton Pritchard, and Anthony Simons. All have a below league average true shooting percentage. So how are they the number 2 offense? 2 reasons. 1, they dominate getting extra chances to score. They're a top 7 offensive rebounding team, and like I said, at worst, the second best turnover team in the league. You know what the catalyst for having the number 2 turnover team in the league? It's Derek White being 11th in the league in touches and not even averaging 2 turnovers. And it's Peyton Pritchard also averaging 66 touches a game and averaging like 1 turnover. Like your two of your 3 lead ball handlers never turn the ball over. So you're going to have extra chances to score. The other catalyst for that is their role players are just stupidly efficient. Like Jordan Walsh, Neemias Queta, Luka Garza. Those guys are just like almost 70% true shooting across the board. Just stupidly efficient play finishers. But yeah, Derek White has such an overwhelming offensive impact on Boston because of his spacing, because of his creation, because of his ball security. And then he's also just, like, at worst, a top 5 defensive guard in the league. So the two-way impact is going to pop up in every single one of these metrics that we look at for assessing value. And here's a crazy... I actually just pulled this number today after we did the whole... Because I did a whole spiel, and like I said, this is why you need to go back to the prequel episode. We did a whole spiel about Derek White and the difference between, like, in value on the court between him shooting 32% from 3 or 39% from 3. And it's just the fact that teams are still going to guard him as a 40% three-point shooter until it's, like, multiple years, because he's already proven to be an elite volume three-point shooter. So him having a lower percentage doesn't actually hurt his value that much, but I found a metric that actually perfectly encompasses what I was trying to get at in that little segment. So you're familiar with estimated plus minus, of course. That's one of the more popular metrics that people use as a catch-all. The cool thing about estimated plus minus is that they have it split up into your actual estimated plus minus and your expected estimated plus minus based on like shooting luck variables and stuff and like outlier stretches, and it's kind of like more accurate based on, okay, if you are like a 30, like the expected 3-point percentage for Derek White this season is 38%, which is like probably the caliber of shooter he actually is. But his actual 3-point percentage is 32%. And estimated plus minus has 2 different metrics that split up the expected value versus the actual value you have on the court. And in the expected estimated plus minus for Derek White, they've got him at 59% true shooting. Like I said, 38% from 3. His estimated plus minus expected plus 4.1. That's his estimated expected plus minus plus 4.1. I believe that's like 11th or 12th in the league. His actual estimated plus minus, with his true shooting percentage of 52.5% and his 3-point percentage of 32.2%, is plus 4.0. It is basically the exact same impact as if he was shooting 38% from 3. So, Derek White, to me, it sucks because, yes, the box score is going to keep him from being an all-star again, which a lot of people thought he should be an all-star last year and the year before that. I think Derek White should be an all-star. We finally need to start recognizing these elite two-way superstar role players who just do everything at a high level on the court and really elevate teams to this winning status. And Derek White is the perfect player to describe that.
Yeah, so I think we're both on our last one, right?
The kicker is that I don't have a last player. I cut it off after 11 because I could not decide between 3 names.
Who are your 3?
And
I think I can guess.
My 3 were Karl Anthony Towns. No, I didn't even have Bam.
Okay.
I didn't even have Bam. And it's because of how much the offense has slipped recently. I usually would have Bam in this discussion, but the offense has slipped to a point where, like, he's been kind of a detriment to Miami's offense for a little bit now, as opposed to even just like a neutral or a beneficiary. I'll name the names that I lightly considered and then do my other 3. So the light considerations were Con Knipple, Bam Adebayo, Brandon Ingram, Norman Powell, Michael Porter Jr., and the reason I don't have a 12th guy is because I had Franz Wagner as my 12th guy. but he's had this weird injury thing going on, and now I don't even know if he'll be healthy for the game. Like, I actually have no idea what the timetable is because he keeps getting these weird nagging injuries. So Franz Wagner, I just took out of there, and he would be my 12th guy based on the way he's played this season. But I'm going to fill my spot with somebody who's healthy. So, 3 names. Karl Anthony Towns, Evan Mobley, and LaMelo Ball were my 3 that I could not decide between for my final spot. My gut was like, go with the games played, but then they're all within like 8 games of each other. Like, LaMelo actually hasn't missed much time. So, can't really go for that angle. Mobley has a completely different argument from the other 2 because it's mostly defensive based. He's an impact defender, and then we talked about how the Cavs have turned it around and are 1 game from the 2 seed. And Evan Mobley's obviously a big part of that. But Evan Mobley's offense has also slipped from last year. You don't have the hyper-efficient finishing like you used to have. So it's a weird predicament. Like, the Cat stuff is just crazy. Like, I don't even know what's going on. Like Knicks fans are clearly fed up with Cat. But Cat's also having the best defensive season of his career, so I want to give him a boost for that, even though the scoring hasn't been up to par with previous years, and he's been having to learn a new Mike Brown offense. And then LaMelo Ball is just like, he clearly does all of these things for Charlotte's offense that's been just blitzing the league over the last month. But then there's like the underwhelming signals, like the fact that he's one of the least efficient 2-point scorers in the league, doesn't get to the line a ton, turns the ball over a lot. I do think he's improved defensively, but still easily like one of the worst defenders we're going to talk about for an all-star. So there's weird hang-ups with all of these guys, and I could not decide between them.
I think one of the things that with Evan Mobley, I'd lean Evan Mobley for my last slot. He as a play finisher specifically out of ball screens, his true shooting percentage has dropped by 16%. He was like
Wow.
His true shooting percentage out of pick and rolls last season was as the roller like 64%, which is why on a point per possession basis he was around like 1.135, and this season he's like 0.08 or something ridiculous. And that's because his true shooting has dropped by 18% out of pick and roll man possession. So I'm curious to dive into the film, see if there's an exact. Do you have a guess, or is it like bad luck? Like, what do you think it is?
I really couldn't tell you, because that's such a weirdly specific. Like, it feels like as a pick and roll finisher, like you're just finishing the play. Like, what could possibly be going wrong that makes it swing so far in the wrong direction?
I said 16%. It's 18. I forget 64, 46. Yeah, quick math. That's 18 for sure.
The part of it that's really weird to me is, like, I do think they made a deliberate effort at the beginning of the year to throw him the ball more and, like, try to lean into his creation more, and they wanted to unlock more of the mid-range game and stuff. And it makes me wonder if maybe his body is under more duress than it was when he was more of a specialist like last year. Like, last year, he was obviously getting the ball more. He was initiating a lot of inverted pick and rolls and stuff, and he was playing in semi-transition a lot as a point big. But his primary shot diet was still very much play finishing, pick and roll heavy. Whereas this year, it seems like they tried to shift more towards like the like Kevin Garnett type of archetype instead of the Anthony Davis. Well, that was a terrible comparison. You get what I'm saying? They tried to go more for the ISO stuff than the finisher stuff, and then it kind of backfired. And maybe that broke down his body, and maybe now he has less energy for the play finishing stuff. Or maybe, like you said, it's bad luck. Maybe he's got, like, a wrist injury we don't know about. Maybe he's... What does the shot profile look like? Like, is he picking and popping more? Maybe? Like, could that be a part of it? And he's just... I have seen... Like, I do think his three-point shot has fallen off a cliff this year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. I'd have to go back.
Maybe that's a part of it?
I mean, it's dropped. But, I mean, I think from a volume standpoint, I'm not sure how much it's dropped by.
But the other thing, too, is that we're talking about Mobley's individual efficiency and stuff, but what we're trying to get at, again, is the impact on the team. And every variation of Evan Mobley lineup still is producing like a 120 offensive rating. So how meaningful is that difference?
Yeah, I was about to say, like, the Cavs are still very much a juggernaut with Mobley on the floor. Whether it's Mobley and Donovan Mitchell, no Jared Allen, it's a 122 offensive rating. Mobley, Allen, and Donovan Mitchell have a plus 10 net rating and have a 124 offensive rating on the floor together. Yeah. You already kind of brought up the fact that we haven't seen them with Darius Garland healthy consistently.
We also haven't seen them with Max Strus at all, who's a key part of their rotation.
Yeah. And in the limited time that we have seen Darius Garland healthy and still like very clearly not playing at his best, even when he was healthy and playing. Garland, Mitchell, Allen, and Evan Mobley was a plus 15 and a 125 offensive rating. They were a juggernaut. So part of it, I think, is the Cavs getting healthy. But, I mean, even though Evan Mobley, again, there's been regression to the mean with his efficiency, and maybe I'm just going to be consistent and give him my last All-Star nod. The data indicators are like, dude, he's still a incredibly valuable piece to that Cavs team, obviously. The two-way impact, the ability to, play around the dunker, help on the glass, still be a threat to attack mismatches and run some point forward stuff and go inverted pick and roll and things like that. Be a hub for them in the half court. I'm going to give my last nod to Evan Mobley, I think.
I think I'm with you. I tried to separate it by like looking at all of the metrics across the board, right? Like you brought up some of them. Like I was looking at estimated plus minus, Darko's daily plus minus. I was looking at LeBron from B-Ball Index. I was looking at some RAPM stuff. I even looked at ESPN's net points is a favorite of mine, but also like the thinking basketball metrics, like their personal back picks, box plus minus, and then also the augmented plus minus in thinking basketball. Basically just nerdy stuff. Like I was like, I need some help from the numbers. And they all had the same impact metrics. Like they were all like either a +3 or a +2 in every metric, and they were like even across the board. Like one metric would say LaMelo Ball is significantly less impactful. Then another metric would say that LaMelo is significantly more impactful than those two because of all the stuff he does for Charlotte's offense. Then there was like a metric that had Mobley as a top 10 player in the league still, and I was like, gosh, I don't know what to do with these guys. But ultimately, I do think the game-to-game impact because of Mobley's defense probably eclipses the other guys. So I'm also going to give my nod to Evan Mobley. But I do want to give like a special shout out to LaMelo and Cat because I do think both of them are worthy All-Stars. And I'd imagine one of them makes the team. I would imagine Cat actually probably makes the team over, of course, Derek White. Yeah. Unfortunately. And I don't even know if Joel Embiid will make it. I hope he does. But
I think he should.
We'll have to wait and see what happens. Is there any other guys in the East you wanted to talk about? Like maybe some of the names I mentioned or didn't mention?
Shout out Khan and LaMelo Ball. They're
also Brandon Miller over these last 10 games is averaging like 22 points a game on 70% true shooting or something like that. So
yeah,
Brandon Miller's starting to pan out. Did
Charlotte's
you consider
like the best offense on the whole season now? That's how good they've been recently.
Yeah. Did you give any heavy consideration to MPJ?
I had MPJ as one of the guys. Another guy I like briefly considered. Their team sucks, but I did consider Pascal.
That's fair. Yeah, I'm not mad at that.
Yeah.
Were there any sleepers? I always wonder, like, and I'm not talking about Paolo Banchero and Stephon Castle. I'm talking about legit sleepers. I didn't even bring up, actually, I feel bad now, because I forgot to include this when I talked about the injury thing, but Jimmy Butler was definitely playing at an all-star level. But he has like the season-ending injury, so he's obviously not in consideration at all.
Jimmy would have definitely got in consideration. Obviously, Franz, who I guess I didn't like verbally say, but Franz, Anthony,
A.
He's hooping. Max Christie, again, didn't mention him.
Yeah. We didn't bring up Josh Giddey. Josh Giddey, I wouldn't be mad at. I think that'd be fine. Zach Edey would have been an all-star if he didn't get hurt, man. Shout out to Zach Edey. Demon Edey. I've been Demon Edey FC since the beginning, man. Shout out.
You have.
Who else? Porzingis, too, probably would have been in consideration if he didn't have the weird illness and injury stuff going on.
Again. Norman Powell, that's another guy I didn't really mention, but
I'm sorry, like, to say this because I'm not a Norman Powell hater by any means, but if Norman Powell got the nod over Derek White, I would probably be pretty upset. Just because it's like, Norman Powell is not so much of a needle mover as a scorer that you are just overlooking that he is bad at all of the little things that Derek White is amazing at.
Yeah.
Like Norman Powell does not defend at a high level, does not play make at a high level, doesn't like take care of the ball at a super high level. He's just kind of a specialist as a scoring weapon, which obviously is super valuable in a big part of Miami's offense. But he clearly just does not impact the game at the level of Derek White. And I just would be upset about that.
Mikal Bridges on that one night against the Pelicans, I think. Was that the Pelicans?
Shout out to Mikal Bridges. Shout out
that was
to
a really
Mikal
cool
Bridges.
interview.
Yeah, that was a good interview. That was a great interview. Aaron Gordon, shout out. Like, he's obviously had all these injuries, but like Aaron Gordon with a volume efficient 3-point shot is just a very dangerous player.
A lot of the impact metrics and data also really, really support Aaron Gordon.
Yeah, I can imagine that. I don't really think there was anyone else I really thought about, though, besides the names that we've brought up across the board. I'm kind of scrolling through some stuff right now. Like, did you... I don't even want to ask you this, but I kind of have to in the spirit of the way we talk about the sport. Did you at all consider Anthony Davis, like, at all?
No.
Yeah, I didn't either.
For
Shout
what?
out to Cooper Flagg.
7 games he
49
played?
tonight. He's played 20. Played 20 games.
Ah.
Don't hate.
If
Don't
Cooper
hate on
Flagg
my
was in
guy.
the East, he would have been an all-star. I'm so for real. I think he probably would have got voted. I think the West is just too loaded. Like, there's no chance he's not getting any. The way that you had Khan specifically is a guy that you like looked at. If Cooper Flagg was in the East, I mean, if Khan was in, there's too many good guys. There's too many good players in the West. Basically, my point. Where
That's fair. Yeah.
Coop's been hooping, but not going to get any shot.
Yeah, I got you. All right, so let's quickly recap our teams. In the East, I had Donovan Mitchell, Scotty Barnes, Jalen Duren, Jalen Johnson, Joel Embiid, Derek White, and Evan Mobley. And in the West, I had Kawhi Leonard, Anthony Edwards, Kevin Durant, Chet Holmgren, Jamal Murray, James Harden, Denny Avdia. I'd say my toughest cuts across the board were LeBron, Rudy Gobert, Devin Booker, LaMelo Ball, and Cat.
That's right, you did have Devin Booker. I forgot.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
All right, in the East, I had Donovan Mitchell, Joel Embiid, Jalen Duren, Scotty Barnes, Derek White, Jalen Johnson, and Evan Mobley. In the West, I had Kawhi Leonard, Jamal Murray, Kevin Durant, Anthony Edwards, Devin Booker, Chet Holmgren, and Rudy Gobert. I guess my toughest cuts are probably Denny Avdia, James Harden, and also hold on, wait. Commissioner's pick, LeBron James was an all-star for me. So toughest cuts are like Sengun, Denny Avdia, and James Harden.
So pretty much all the guys we flip-flopped. That sounds about right. All right, yeah, let us know down in the comments how wrong we were, because that's always a fun part of doing these types of exercises. Who you think we snubbed, who you would have in place of other guys, what your criteria was, all that good stuff. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple, 5-star rating is very, very much appreciated. We really appreciate all the support, and we're going to try and keep this thing rolling with the consistency. We'll see how that goes. History says it's not going to go well, but I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good about this. We've got the train rolling, man. There's nothing that can stand in the way. It's like the GTA train. You ever seen when they try to stop the GTA train with like millions of bombs and it just keeps going? That's going to be the Hoop Venue podcast in 2026. Make sure to follow us on social media. Sean's on Twitter at Sean_DAVI. He's on Instagram at Sean_Davis23. He's on YouTube at The Sports Headline Show or the Los Angeles Lakers Network. I'm on all platforms at Tyler Britton_ and Hoop Venue, of course, for my basketball content. Like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. And we will catch you guys next time with episode number 74.